Greetings and salutations, everyone. It's time for the XP Billionaires podcast. This is Rayfe and I've got Sky Knight, Irene Rogue, and a bunch of conversation coming up right for you. So, Sky, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm good. Ready to chat video games?
That is an attitude, and I like it. And Irene, how are you doing today?
Oh, keep it on.
That is also an attitude, and I'll accept it for now. We've got a great episode lined up for you today. At least I hope you think it's great. I think it's great. But this is a chance for you guys to get to know a little bit more about us and how we enjoy our RPGs. So let's get on it. When an RPG lets you customize your character above and beyond just the physical, the big question becomes, how do I want to play this character? Your stats influence your playstyle in ways you may not even know about yet, depending on the game. Since the XP Billionaires are such a varied bunch, I thought it'd be fun if we discussed our personal playstyles in a strat-driven RPG video game. We all here come from a tabletop role-playing cloth, so when it comes to building a character, making it interesting, and justifying the stats with the personality of said character, I mean, that's part of the fun there. So when we can incorporate that into a video game, I think it's a lot more fun for us. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I enjoy it that way.
From time to time.
Yeah. So, I mean, why don't we just start off? What is your default play style and why? So, Sky, how do you play your video games?
Well, my default style tends to be very sort of mid-range mage knight types, basically. Not pure magical, not pure physical. I like having a larger range of options at my immediate disposal, even if it means I have to cut corners here and there. I suppose if I was a Final Fantasy class, I would be a red mage.
No, awesome. Irene, what about you?
I like the quick and high dexterity type builds. I like a build that I can easily react to whatever the enemy throws at me without being committed to some big swing wind up animation, and be able to dive in and take advantage of an opening whenever it appears. This is most exemplified by how I play Bloodborne. I basically run the whole game with the threaded cane, and while it doesn't do big numbers, I'm able to get in and out safely or get in a quick hit that here or there to sort of whittle them down. Like even playing Witcher 3, I tended to go for for at most medium armor and use more light attacks and oils rather than become the immovable object and swing with all my might every time. I was more interested in playing flexibly, I guess, not necessarily defensively. I just wanted to be able to, be able to handle whatever was thrown at me, and that meant usually being speedy enough to get out of its way.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, I was doing that with Greedfall actually, which was a little bit of a deviation from what I like, but not too much. Like for me, I'm an aggressive player, so I like, bigger, fast damage, and I like to have as much hit points as possible to soak in that damage. Typically I'll do DPS in an MMO and single players. I go fairly strength oriented, but I also do like dodging over blocking when I play. So I go as high hit points as I possibly can in those situations, but I still want to be able to move around decently on the board. So I don't want to encumber myself with heavier armor or heavier gear. Yeah, like I can sit there, take a bunch of punches if I have to, but if I'm able to dodge something, I like it that way.
Exactly. I'm not saying that I would sacrifice my vitality in order to be speedier because I am going to fuck up at some point. It's more I don't want to paint myself into a corner where I'm devoted to a single strategy. Because well, we'll talk about it later in our because I wrote about it in our show notes for today. But I've learned some lessons and they sucked.
We've all learned lessons. And yeah, so that is what it is. That being said, with all of the ways we build our characters, what are some of the deterrents that make you think twice about a specific character build? I mean, we all experiment, I'm sure. We've all tried different builds. We just, these the ones we just talked about are just the ones we tend to default to. But like, what keeps you from a specific character build? Sky, what do you think?
Super low speed. Like, speed isn't everything to me, but if you're below a certain threshold, if your characters are as slow as molasses, it's almost like, why bother? Particularly in a game where, say, random encounter fights happen and you're able to beat everyone in one go without being damaged. Well, you're gonna want to go high speed to make clearing the hordes go all the faster and make sure you don't get hit. Super slow characters have just never been my thing because I don't like taking damage.
Yeah, you get painted in again. You get painted into the corner. Now you're like, well, I'm taking this hit. My gear better be good enough.
Yeah, and I find often like it's not worth it. Like, the truism of the best defense is a good offense, right? Like, you're not going to need to take hits if you do enough damage fast enough.
That is definitely your style.
Yeah. So.
Here I'm planning for every eventuality, like the fucking conspiracy theorist gif with like all the yarn on the walls, and Sky's just like, I want big numbers.
I tend to be, in many cases, a stat manipulation sort of player, like with equipment, it's just like, I don't care about special abilities, just drive the stats up as high as possible.
I know I completely agree with you about the speed thing. Like for me, isn't it like being the aggressive player? I want at least a pretty decent like swing speed for my weapon, especially if I'm playing something on a melee basis, like two-handed axe or a warhammer or something like that. Like if it swings so slowly, like I'm gonna take 5 hits before I land even one, even if that one hit kills something. Yeah, that doesn't work for me.
No, I don't care for that. And there has to be some pretty good upsides to make me accept an extremely low speed character into my party.
No, I completely agree there. Yeah, absolutely. Irene, what keeps you from classes?
Consumables! Looking at you, Elder Scrolls. I wanted to play a ranger in those games, and it turned out that arrows were so damn expensive I couldn't do it from the start. So I'm all specced out to be a ranged character, and I'm not allowed because I have no money, and arrows are expensive. Like, that is the dumbest shit I have ever heard. Like, and I didn't really have an option to like make them or anything like that. Like, it was just anyway. If a certain build is going to rely on a limited supply of expensive ammunition or items to works, I will bin that right away. I don't want to run out of punch mid-fight. Like,
Yeah, no.
there's a
Go
difference
ahead.
between like the arrows and like your ammunition being affordable and like easily like carryable. Like, for example, in Diablo 2, go back quite a ways. When I played the Amazon, I played the ranged build, which is, bow and arrow. When I got up to the higher difficulties, what I would do is, before actually leaving town, I would fill my inventory with quivers of just normal arrows because I would go through all of them. They were cheap, though, so it was never like an issue with like, it was never an issue of not having enough money to buy more, and they were fucking everywhere, so like, I wouldn't necessarily like be in a situation where I ran out. I'm really glad that a lot of games have figured out that managing your ammunition count is not fun, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. That sort of shit's really irritating. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
like, sorry, we have enough numbers to look at to track in these games. We
Go
don't
ahead.
need basic ammunition on top of it.
No, and like I'm fine if like, special ammunition that explodes or like makes coffee, you know, takes up an inventory slot and like I have to
Makes
manage that.
coffee.
Yeah. You shoot it and like coffee comes out. Wouldn't that be awesome? Anyway, my point is, I don't mind if it's special, if it actually takes up a slot in my inventory. But I don't also, don't want to have to manage like standard fucking arrows to be able to play like a ranged character. And B, I don't want to have to fill my entire inventory capacity with ammunition every time I fucking leave the house. Like,
Yeah, that's bullshit.
yeah, and like Diablo 2's old. I'm gonna like give it a bit of a pass because it's old. But like manage having to manage like a ton of consumables and have limited quantities to do anything, like it irks me. Like Bloodstained, for example. The infinite round is bullshit. It's not strong enough. It's weak and pathetic, which means I'm constantly managing, the good ammunition, right? It won't last the boss fight, so why would I bother?
Yeah, it makes you wonder why they make certain things if they're going to be borderline useless.
Yeah, like guns in that game are basically like it's not a play style that is particularly viable.
Yeah. No, I think back to Greedfall on that one. Like you get a gun as a side weapon in most of the classes that are in there, but like ammo is scattered almost in like everything you can pick up from. Like no matter where you go, there's like if there's a spot where you can grab something, it's usually going to have at least one or two pieces of ammo in it, and they don't take up inventory. Like they did that well, but you can build around playing with your gun, but you don't have to, and you end up with enough ammo. Like I've run out a couple of times, but that was because I was relying on it a lot more heavily. But I don't have to do that in most scenarios.
Even if they made the infinite bullet like a little bit stronger, it would have made for a more viable play style. Like in comparison to, even a single-handed sword, like say the single-handed sword does 40 damage like on a single swing.
Mhm.
The infinite bullet does half that.
Okay.
And an average enemy takes 2 or 3 swings to kill.
Yeah.
So maybe more. So like you see what I'm getting at, right? It's too underpowered to really like I wouldn't mind it if it took like a little bit of a penalty because like yay, ranged, right? It
Yeah.
shouldn't necessarily be because lower risk, so lower reward. Still, it's
Yeah.
just not viable.
Even something as simple as just having like an upgrade system, like hide upgrades for your gun across the map in the game, that would at least help, so that it stops being as weak as you progress through the game.
Yeah, like make
Like
the
you could do
like
something
an
like
upgrade.
that if you want to keep the game going the same or in the same style. But at the very least, yeah, find a way to strengthen the infinite bullet as the game gets more difficult.
Yeah, because like I've run out of standard like damage rounds easily. Like I
Yeah.
carry something like 90 of them now, and that's still like it's still not nearly enough rounds. There's enemies everywhere. Anyway, consumables.
Yeah. No,
That will
definitely.
turn me off. That'll turn me off the build really fast.
No, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, mine is a little bit more. I don't know. It's a different reason. It's definitely a different reason than either of your choices. Like for me, it's accessibility with a controller. Like this is why I avoid like magically oriented builds. Like like if there's any type of precision aiming required, it needs to be either really easy to do on the controller or I'm not going to do it because I don't want to play keyboard mouse. I don't enjoy keyboard mouse. That's a me thing. I get that, but I don't I it needs to be in a controller in fashion. Like I think back to Dragon Age Origins. I remember that you had to set aims for some of the major damage spells. I was not good. Even when I had to use a scroll at one point, like I was really terrible at aiming with it. And yeah, that was not my way of doing things.
It's what I liked about playing a mage in Greedfall is that it was just auto targeting, which was so much better than trying to aim.
Oh yeah, and that looked a lot better in a lot of cases. Like I've watched your playthrough as a mage, and if I ever wanted to do something magically oriented, I would probably try it there first. But I mean, also it like the whole concept of doing magic as a caster. I mean, I've tried it a couple of times in role playing. I don't think Irene will ever let me do it again when
No,
she's running a game, but
I will not.
I
ah,
but I will not give you the leverage that that Irene gave you.
I was far too permissive, and I have learned my lesson.
yeah, that's
That you
fair.
have.
That that's fair. If you guys want to know that story, hit me up on my Twitter. I'm more than happy to tell you that. But it is definitely not a story for this podcast.
No, it is upsetting.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's special, is what it is. We'll call it special. Okay, so yeah, now that we've gotten that out of the way, here's where we get to do the fun storytelling. Has there ever been a time where something in a game has made you regret your current play style or stat choices? Sky, what has that ever happened to you?
It has. Most of the time, I've been able to work around it, but every once in a while, you get a game where they don't let you adjust your stats at any point or your abilities, and you just put something in that into a category where you don't end up using it in the end. Like recently, I was playing Torchlight on my computer, and I put a bunch of points into dual wielding because I was playing a alchemist, which is the spellcasting class, and I thought, oh, dual wands, that'll be fun. Well, you get random loot in Torchlight, and now I'm no longer dual wielding because it isn't worth it since I got a really good two-handed staff. Now, in retrospect, like it may become useful again. I may find it more useful later down the road to switch back to dual wands, but right now it's kind of a waste.
Yeah, my story when we get to it is kind of the reverse of what just happened and what happened to you there. So, but yeah, no, like I can see that. Like, you go in, in a game like that that's very much a Diablo like loot dropper. And that's always going to be the risk that you take when you're building your character, is that the gear that you get, depending on how you play, and if there's a lot of flexibility, like it seems to be in Torchlight, I haven't played it yet, but you get put in those positions a lot easier than you would, a standard JRPG, or even sometimes in even some Western RPGs, because there are some games out there that will just only drop stuff for your class, which is or your current build. So
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously not one of those games that does that, and I have there's only three classes, so there's some flexibility in them, which is how I got screwed by investing in dual wielding when I ended up easily getting a really good two-handed staff.
mhm.
But most of a lot, or at least a lot of your equipment is found, right? So
Especially late game, like especially in like the Diablo games, pretty much everything you have on you is found. The shops just don't carry gear that's up to snuff after a while.
yeah, I'm finding most of the time that's the case in Torchlight. I do check because every once in a while something will creep into the shop that is maybe a little better than what I have on, but
Oh,
it's
yeah, for sure.
it's usually not a big difference either. So
Well, same with Borderlands. Like all of your best guns are going to be found. Odds are, like every now and then you'll get like a gun of the day that is like really fucking good. And then you buy the gun of the day and it's immediately replaced by something even better that like shoots rainbows or something.
well, that's Borderlands for you.
Yeah, some of those unique guns are funny. One of them neighs like a horse and shoots sparkles. It's a shotgun.
Charming.
Because of course it is.
Yep. It's a coach gun. It's got one shot in it, and it's like rainbow, and there's a unicorn.
Oh my. All right. Well, why don't you now regale us with any stories you have of tales of regret and woe from your playstyles?
So there's always a little bit of a tinge of regret every time I get a cool new weapon in Bloodborne and realize it's spec'd for strength builds. Like, I'd say a good 80% of the weapons in Bloodborne are spec'd for strength builds, and I'm like, come on, guys, come on. But there's no going back, so I allow them to clutter my inventory and just move on. Serious answer. There's always a boss fight that is designed to be easier with certain builds, and usually my choices annoy me a little bit then, but I had fun playing, so I stayed the course. The only time where this was an issue was the final boss in Neverwinter Nights. And I think, Sky, when you said you were going to play it, I warned you because it was a horrible, horrible thing for me. I played through as a monk. I really enjoyed being able to punch things until they were, red mist. It was great. The final boss fight was not doable if you were a melee character. It just wasn't. The boss stood behind a wall and pelted you with spells. If you couldn't fire or, pelt back, you couldn't damage the boss. You had to use ranged, and I was a monk.
That seems like bad game design.
Yeah, I was extremely displeased that I was able to get all the way to the end, only to be told I had played the game wrong. And this isn't giving BioWare a pass either. As far back as Baldur's Gate 2, when I played through that game, my aunt told me, really, you can play as any class you want, but the only class that's going to make the final boss fight even remotely doable is if you started as a warrior and immediately dual class to a mage. Because you need level 9 spells. And if you don't want to take MO in with you, or if you want more level 9 spells, you yourself will need level 9 spells. No one else gets them.
Wow.
Yeah, so, for a while there, BioWare had an issue where they were you can play the game as whatever class you want. Some will definitely be easier than others. However, if you actually want to finish the game, the last fight is going to require you to do a very specific thing. And we will not have, prepared you for it. There's something like getting all the way through and being told you've played the game wrong.
That's not great.
No. Fortunately, with more modern games, this happens less and less because that's bullshit. I never went back and played Neverwinter Nights again, by the way. I was so dismayed because I was like, I'm going to finish this game and it's going to be awesome. And I couldn't fucking do it because the boss was out of reach by design.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But I don't have words for that. I really don't.
It's bad design, as Sky said.
Yeah.
I don't mind if a boss fight is a little bit more challenging based on the build that I've chosen. Because some will be easier, right? That's fine. If it's undoable with a certain build that you've allowed your players to use through the entire game, why would you do this thing?
Yeah, no, that's. I'm still gonna play the game, but yeah, I'm gonna take that matter into my own hands and find a way around it somehow, some way. I'm gonna figure it out. That's my challenge. I'll take it. I'll let you guys know how I do.
Yeah, you might have needed a different hireling. There was really only one hireling worth taking, but okay.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
All the others were so bad. They couldn't survive the fight. Anyway, never mind. Can move on before I start lamenting even further.
All right. Well, that being said, I have a story to tell you all, and it is a story of sadness and a story of dismay, and made me regret my play style. And that story begins with the aforementioned Greedfall. My character build, I went a little different than your typical tanky big damage warrior. Although I am dishing out amazing damage, I found a really nice one-handed sword. But yeah, so I'm playing with a one-handed sword and I'm playing with my sidearm, medium armor build. I found fantastic legendary set of armor, so I take very little damage, but I can, like I was saying before, I can dodge, and that's great. So I'm happy. So after like a whole bunch of time hunting around, looking at finding treasure chests, I come across my dream. I come across a scythe. And anyone who knows me or has listened to any of the previous episodes knows that if I have a scythe, I'm going to wield it.
Yep.
And here's the catch. I was not spec'd for it. My expectation was that if I was ever going to find a scythe, it was going to be considered a two-handed melee weapon. And, that seems reasonable, right? Am I crazy?
No, that's usually how it's done.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, apparently in Greedfall, there is a difference between two-handed melee weapons and two-handed heavy weapons, and the scythe classifies itself as the two-handed heavy weapon, which I had not built for. Basically, I have a difficult choice ahead of me. I can either completely respec my character, give up all the awesome damage that I've been doing with my one-handed sword, and set myself up for this just so I can play with the scythe. Or I can leave it behind and then just continue playing as I am with an amazing damage build, the ability to dodge, the ability to soak damage. And I chose to put the scythe in the trunk. Hardest decision I've had to make in a game with the scythe. It hurt me physically.
I imagine it did.
Oh my God.
I'm picturing a lot of hours walking moodily in the rain to like 90s sad music.
If I enjoyed walking in the rain, maybe. But yeah, that's my tale of woe. And oh my God, it just hurt. I mean, from what I read when I did some research, the scythe it was the only scythe in the game. It was a legendary weapon, but overall there were better weapons out there. Would that have stopped me? No, but I wouldn't be dealing the same kind of damage I was dealing as I stood with my one-handed weapon and being able to use my sidearm, which was also pretty damn good when it came to damage. So it was a tough call. I think for gameplay's sake and being able to get through the game, I think I made the easier call, but yeah, it was not pleasant. All right. Well, I hope this gives you listeners a little bit more perspective on, how we like our games, especially when we're in a position where we have a lot more control over the stats and the play style. Let me know what you guys think of each play style and which one you prefer. Or if you have a tale of woe like that, by all means, I'd love to share in your sadness, just as you are with mine right now. So definitely hit me up. You can find me on Twitter at Billionaires XP. You can find me on Instagram at Rayfe Thegrim. You can check out my streams on Twitch under Rayfe Thegrim, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to share stories there while I'm swinging through the city, you're more than welcome to. Sky, where can everyone find you?
You can find me at SkyKnightXP on Twitter and Twitch. I'm at skyknight.xp on Instagram, and I stream on Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern.
Awesome. And Irene, where can everyone find you?
You can find me at irogue_xp on Twitter and Twitch. Normally streaming on Thursdays at 7.
All right. And don't forget to check out our website for transcripts, written work, and more information on our schedules. You can find that at xpbillionaires.wordpress.com. And don't forget to thank our XP Hobo for the transcripts that we get every week. And you can find them on Twitter at XP_Hobo. Lastly, don't forget to check out our monthly newsletter for January with a lot of the stuff with what we're doing for the month. And if there's anything special coming out, I'm not going to tell you what that is right now. You better go check it out. And that's at coffee.com/xpbillionaires. All right. Well, that's going to be it for us this week. But just remember, it doesn't matter how you play the game, just as long as you keep gaming. We'll see you next week. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye bye.